In this lesson we will get a little bit more serious, and for that purpose here is our female model from previous scene, and I only adjusted weights a little bit and scaled down these controllers and positioned them really on logical places. Also I positioned the arm next to the body instead of that T-pose. That was really simple. I simply selected the controllers, and once I positioned them properly, I hit this update, which instructed the character object that I wanted this pose to be my new default pose. Now let's hit this add walk button and see what do we get in this specific situation. So add walk, and I'll select this Cmotion guy and we'll simply lock this manager because we will deal with Cmotion only. Now if I hit play, this is what I get, and it's nothing to write home about, but it's a start. So we will obviously have to adjust things, and this walk is a little bit funny as it is now. So the first thing that bothers me is, let me just do a time warp command. Okay, so you can press the J key and scrub in the viewport, and the first thing that bothers me is that the character seems to move too much upward in this pelvis region. So the pelvis region is responsible for all the up and down movement. So I think this is a little bit too much. So let's select the pelvis here, and you see we have a lift action assigned to it, and notice how small this value is. So it's something around 1.4, and let's just turn it off. Press play here and notice the difference. So even the slightest values here can produce huge difference. So if you enable this, watch how much difference that is. So I hope that makes sense, because it is very usual for animation, even for the lowest values, to have significant impact on the motion. So that is really important for you to understand. And people at Maxon are well aware of that, so that is why you can press these little arrow gizmos, and these values will move in increments of 0.1. So that is really good, as opposed where you would simply move the value in increments of 1 centimeter. That would be too much. Okay, so let's hit play and adjust this a little bit. So let's go lower, maybe even a bit more. So it's a matter of taste, and when you feel you have the proper motion, so something around 0.6. Let's round it up to 0.5 in this case, so just a minimal movement in the pelvis region, like this. Let's go back. So basically what I'm trying to show you here is that you can tweak the walk, even though it is parametric, you can tweak it to be really solid, as you will see, but we will not spend too much time on this. And this pelvis controller, this local hub, I think it is a little bit too high because the character appears elongated. So let me just tune this a little bit down vertically so it will not appear stretched upwards like this. So let's try maybe something really low, maybe something like -1, and that will give us the appearance of some weight. Let's even go maybe something like this, 1.7. well, hell, let's round it up to -2. So we will use round numbers. This may seem a little bit off, but I think this will be okay. So let me just warp it a little bit. And also, if you take a look at the legs, you will see that the stride length is simply too low. It's like very slow walk, almost like the character is sneaking, and we don't want that. We want normal walk in this case. So let's try 50 first, so we get a lot more space and increase the length of the step. So once again, I'm pressing J and I'm scrubbing in the viewport. I actually think this is not enough. Let's try even maybe 75. So it's all about finding the right numbers, and I think this could work. So let's stick to 75, and we will see if we will need to adjust it later. I will zoom out a bit and let's see how that works when we hit play. So I think this is way better than what we had before. We will ignore the hands for this moment, and we'll just concentrate on getting this movement here correctly. And there is one thing that is bothering me, and I think I will have to go a little bit overboard within this lesson in terms of showing you something that is maybe just a little bit beyond the scope of this lesson. You see, what is bothering me is that here, just selected this hip FK controller, which is not listed here because we have this character object. Let's unlock this. Set to display only components. Now let's just get back here, and I want to explain you something. Now, this area lacks movement because I would really expect some sort of a movement like this. You see, I can manipulate this guy because it is not inside this Cmotion. So let's undo that, and let's actually disable Cmotion just for a moment. So we have nice and clean values to start with, and I will find this controller here. So let's actually first select our character object and set the display to controllers. Okay, it will be a little bit easier than going to full hierarchy. And when you have so many objects in Object Manager, you can utilize this search guy. So let's search for hip, and we get two guys. So let's establish which one is which, and this is the guy we are looking for. And now we will simply drag it inside the Cmotion, and we will make it a local hub itself. So it won't be a child of this pelvis controller or a target in that sense, except of course of this main master hub. We can now turn this off. We can set this back to components, and that was really quick, wasn't it? Now, what kind of movement are we exactly looking for? So let's just warp the time a little bit, and of course nothing will happen unless we enable Cmotion. I will click off here and simply lock this guy so it doesn't bother us. So in this position, I would really expect this hip controller that we just inserted to be slightly rotated. I really cannot manipulate it now because it's inside the Cmotion and it took over the control of that guy. What I can do is to select it here and simply determine which axis I have to use for rotating this guy with this action. So you see, I'm in the world mode, and there is a few things that you will find out about world and object mode in regard to these actions here. And the action I'm looking for is this rotation around Z. I hope you will be able to see this. So we have to rotate around this blue guy. So let's add rotation Z axis. So this is roll. And like this we will add it, and let's do a time warp here and see what it does. So now it's time to determine how do we want this to behave. Now it looks a little bit odd. Let me just deselect this because it's not really natural. Look at the movement. It's a little bit off. You have to determine with your artistic sense when something will happen. So in my mind, when this leg is forward, I think this part of the body here should also move forward. That is really logical to me. So let me select this action, and just to avoid confusion, I will reset this guy and will show you this really slowly on the most simplest example I could think of. So when this right leg is extended, in my mind, this part of the body here should be rotated forward a bit. So that really makes sense to me. Also, when we hit completely different stage of the walk, I would expect the same thing, but on the opposite side. So therefore I will drop this all the way here, because this is 0, don't forget that. So we are reaching minus values here with these guys, and in the middle of the walk, I simply want the maximum position. So I will add a point here, and can actually select all points and simply select ease here. I hope you take my word for it, because the menu is cut off due to recording. So let's now actually scrap time and see what we have. And there is a motion I was looking for. And that's pretty much it as far as the legs and hip is concerned. Maybe we'll tune it a little bit more. Let's now concentrate on the arms, because as you can see, the arms are stationary, and you wouldn't expect stationary arms during walk. Okay, so let's add a slight movement to them, and one word of caution. Position actions are considered in world mode. So if you want to have proper feedback and to be sure which action you have to assign, change this to world mode. So let's go even to side view, and naturally you would expect motion in Z. So let's do just that. Let's find the left arm, and we will add push Z. So position Z in this case. Let's add that action, and now we have a blank spline and no value here. Now, once again, you will have to use your artistic sense. So in my mind, and pretty much in everyone's mind, should be that when you are walking, let's go back to this perspective view, the arm opposite to your leg is extended, and in this case, when the right leg is forward, your left arm should be forward. Okay, try to walk and observe your own motion, and you will see that it is really the case. And if you are unsure how to start, or if you get this blank window, I suggest you always, and I really mean always, load a sine wave, which is a really good start, because most of the motion, at least in a human body or any other body for that matter, is derived from either a sine wave or arc motion. So start with either sine wave or a simple arc motion. So let's see what we have, and of course we have to set some sort of a value here, and we have a movement here. Now let's scrap time and see what happens. And exactly opposite happens. So our arm moves with the left leg, where it should do exactly the opposite thing. So you can counteract that quickly by simply right-clicking here and doing this flip command. It will flip the complete spline. So let's try now. And it really works as it should. And the only thing that bothers me is, let's try to play it. I think that is too much of a movement. Let's try something lower, maybe. Let's round it up to 5, and I think this is solid enough. Let's try like this. That's actually pretty good. We stop this, go back, and you don't have to repeat this process for another hand. You can simply right-click, copy, select the right arm, and do a paste. Now, beware that probably your rig will contain different axis orientation, so when you hit play, you could have opposite results. Okay, let's stop this, go back. Now let's zoom out a bit and hit play and see how that works. And I think this is way better than what we had in initial walk that was provided to us with the Cmotion, and we could even add a little bit more to this arms, because let me just do a quick time warp, and you see this wrist. Let me just do that for you. That is often the best way. So this guy should rotate like this a little bit, so like this and like this. So it isn't supposed to be that firm, so this hand should do a little bit of this rotation as well. So let's actually add that. Let's go back to the beginning, and since rotations are added in a local axis, we have to turn off this guy so we can read out which axis we will use for rotations. And that's really simple because we have to use this Y axis here. So let me just select that controller and you will see. So we have to rotate around Y. Let's get rid of this guy. Can even turn this search option off, and let's add this action to our left arm first. So we said rotation Y like this, and we will hit add. So now, once again, we are pretty much unsure what will happen. So let's scrub the time a little bit with time warp and have some sort of a funny motion. This is not right. This is simply not working. Even if you flip this guy, let me just do that like this so you can see the flip command. It's not good. Now, as I recommended before, load a sine wave. Let's actually do it from here, and these menus are really long and it's a little bit difficult to squeeze them into recording area, and this is actually all there is to it. So because we have some sort of a rotation movement and it really appears natural, and you can tweak this to unbelievable extent, but I really think it is not needed in this case. Now what is great, you can simply copy that guy and simply apply it to this right arm, and let's just rotate this a little bit and you will notice a problem, and it appears that it is going backwards, and that is what I was talking about when I was saying that you have to be careful when you are applying actions from one side to another. So in this case, and almost in any other case, the solution is simple, and just have to flip the spline. So let's see how about now, and I think this is really good. So let's give it a shot. Hit play and see how that works, and I think this is way better than what we had initially, and maybe we could add just a little tiny thing, and there is some head movement. So let's select the controller and decide which axis we will use, and let's see, maybe I will use this Z movement, so we can freely collapse these guys. And also what I probably didn't mention is that you can double click on these guys and simply rename them as you find convenient. So let's drop the head inside. It can also be a child of the pelvis, so it will inherit some motion, and we will add a rotation Z action to it. Now once we add that, let's hit play and see how that works, and obviously this is way too much of a movement, and we can go with a really low value, so 2 could work, maybe even 1, like this. So even the tiniest movement, just concentrate on the head, can produce really great impact. So let's see how it is without it, and look how unnatural this looks without just a single degree of motion on our head. So that is it as far as the tweaking and adding some motion to our controllers, and I hope you like the result. And now we will actually do some really fun stuff with this pose and steps tabs. I just want to mention that creating box cycles, especially manual ones, which I will show you in this training, is very difficult and demanding for a few reasons. The first one is due to level of technical knowledge needed to even start with experimenting. Second, is understanding motion and anatomy to a degree where you're able to deconstruct that motion into logical parts. And third, and I think this is the most difficult thing to learn, is acquiring that feeling for natural movement, which is probably by far the most difficult part of it, since it also relies on talent. With that being said, we will take a short break and we will continue in our next lesson with some really powerful and interesting stuff that are hidden in this pose and steps tabs. Okay, so see you in the next lesson.